a little booktube. I just had a bit of Frida drama, very predictable Frida drama. My little miniature schnauzer, Frida, was on the back of the couch looking out at the world through her little window. And I said, I'm going to make a video. And she ignored me because she's a big girl. And so I came into this little book room, and you can't tell from looking at this vantage point. This is actually a very small room, so you can't have the door open if I'm making a video, or everything on the back of the door would be right here. so I looked at her. I stood at the doorway and I looked at her and said, I'm going to close the door now. I'll only be a minute or two, but I'm going to close the door now. And she looked at me and then went back to looking at the world and ignored me. So I closed the door, and a minute later, I sat down, and a minute later, I heard the little click of her toenails right outside the door. Because she doesn't like to be far away from me. At any point, she doesn't like to be far away from me. She likes to be right here. You want to see your fans? Huh? You want to see your fans? Huh? Oh, it's a little bit awkward, isn't it? It's a little bit awkward. Yeah, this angle's a little awkward. Oh, goodness gracious. But anyway, I meant what I said to her about a few minutes, because yesterday was exorbitant. Yesterday was 3 hours of Steve, and who needs that? So today we're going to do one video, and it's going to be very quick. Although I am pondering several video series that I want to start, probably in February. Probably I won't do anything for the remaining days of January, but I'm thinking of a few things. First of all, I've let Mega Stuff videos go, and where are you without your tedious life updates from Steve? You're nowhere. So I need to resume Mega Stuff videos at least one a week. I was doing them every day because I have so many nattering old pointless anecdotes to update you on. But also, I'm thinking of a library tour. Especially tedious kind of library tour where we do one book a day. Forever. Starting in this little room. I'm thinking about a bunch of those things. And also, of course, my much neglected starter kits. And the Presidential Library series, which felt like it was pointless. For the last 4 years, it felt pointless. I also really stopped buying or really enjoying U.S. presidential biographies in the last 4 years. But now I don't feel quite that bad anymore about that subject, so the Presidential Library series need to resume with, I think, James Monroe. But we have a long way to go. But for today, it's just going to be one quick little video. So we've got 3 packages here, including a box. And I don't think any of them are from you. We are in the midst of an outbreak of people breaking rule number 1, where you don't send Steve a book. But what have we got here? Okay, a pretty thing. This is from Erewhon Press. This comes out in late April. This is called Folklorn by Angela Mi Young Hoor. 4 names. Angela Mi Young Hoor. A genre-defying, continent-spanning saga of Korean myth, scientific discovery, and the abiding love that binds even the most broken of families. Elsa Park is a particle physicist at the top of her game, stationed at a neutrino observatory in the Antarctic, confident she's put enough distance between her ambition and her family ghosts that she's run from all her life. Okay, now that that's out of the way. But it isn't long before her childhood imaginary friend, an achingly familiar spectral woman in the snow, comes to claim her at last. Years ago, Elsa's now catatonic mother had warned her that the women of their line were doomed to repeat the narrative lives of their ancestors from Korean myth and legend. But beyond these ghosts, Elsa also faces a more earthly fate, the mental illness and generational trauma that runs through her immigrant family, a sickness no less ravenous than the ancestral curse hunting her. When her mother breaks her decade-long silence and tragedy strikes, Elsa must return to her childhood home in California. There, among family wrestling with their own demons, she unravels the secrets hidden in the handwritten pages of her mother's dark stories, of women's desire and fury, of magic suppressed, stolen, or punished, and of the hunger for vengeance. Okay, it sounds jam-packed. Who is the author? She is, okay, in her author bio, she only has 2 names, Angela Hoor. Received a BA in English from Harvard and an MFA in creative writing from Notre Dame. Wow, not bad at all as a combination. where she won the Sparks Fellowship and the Sparks Prize. Her debut, The Queens of K-Town, was published by McAdam Cage in 2007. And this book, Folklorn, was chosen by Kelly Link for Tin House Novel Mentorship through the Tin House Summer Workshop. Okay. Okay, great. So, modern physics and ancient Korean mythology. This comes out in late April, so it's a long time from now. It's a long way for me to get to it. It will go on my increasingly crowded shelf of advanced copies. That shelf I may need to rethink that whole thing. That's the reason why I haven't done my grand rearranging of the books quite yet. Why I'm not done. Ordinarily, it would take no time at all. The last few months, it's taken no time at all because it's only involved about 10 printed copies. But that number is going up, and that's cause for deep thought. I once had a huge, solid bookcase on that wall that was all advanced copies, arranged by month, with the top shelf being the ones that are currently coming out. And then in the middle of the pandemic, I realized, that as you're moving the books for each month up to the top shelf and getting rid of all the earlier ones, you're noticing that the bottom shelves are just empty. There aren't any physical copies to replace them. It's not like that's happening anymore. You know that anyway if you watch this channel, because we used to get a tub of mail every day, and that's not happening. So eventually I realized, well, okay, then I don't need this bookcase to be here. I don't want empty shelves when I've got books coming in. So when this grand move happened and suddenly I had empty walls and could decide where I wanted to put all of my bookcases, and I could really rethink what I wanted. Like, for instance, in this little book room, in the old arrangement, I had a prevalence of something that you can see right there. See right below Wilson the Penguin. That is actually two bookcases, one on top of each other. And that's fine. And that brings them all the way to the ceiling. But what I really wanted in this new wall of bookcases was to put all of my single unit bookcases. All of these, all along that wall there, those are all single unit bookcases. They're not one bookcase on top of the other. They were built that size. Most of them custom built for me. And in the past, those were scattered all over the place. Now they're all here. And I had the same kind of rethinking luxury with that review copy bookcase, and realized, no, just get rid of it. Put normal bookcases on that wall, because you're going to have empty shelves. And you only need, I thought at the time, this was back in, June. I thought you only need one shelf for the advanced copies that you're getting. And that's turning out, that's inching closer to not being true anymore. So I might need to rethink that. In the meantime, this is going to go on a towering pile. This is April, and I have a bunch of April. So anyway, let's go on to the next one here, and we'll work our way, because this is not going to be a 40-minute video, and there aren't going to be 5 of them. There's not going to be 3 hours of Steve burbling at you today. So let's just go to this next one. Let's see. Okay. Very interesting. I won't say interesting looking, because it's a faded sepia tone photo, but this is a novel. This is called Comes the War by Ed Ruggiero, with a Queen Elizabeth style, a Queen Elizabeth looking young servicewoman looking at the great tower there as airplanes fly along the sky and blood drops are on the cover. A little bit busy in terms of conception, but let's see here. So this is the sequel to the author's book from last year called Blame the Dead, which I don't think I ever saw. I don't think I ever did. And it finds Lieutenant Eddie Harkins, a former Philadelphia beat cop, reassigned to the London branch of the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, after a stint as an MP. The author recreates the period's feel months before the Normandy invasion while playing fair with the reader. That's from the Star Review of Publishers Weekly of the earlier book, Blame the Dead, which was not written by me. Let's see here. The former Army officer Ed Ruggiero, called, quote, a master of the World War II genre by the Los Angeles Times, from him comes a new page-turning thriller for fans of compelling historical fiction. Comes the War, which comes out in early February, so this is another one for that burgeoning pile. The February pile is huge. Under ordinary circumstances, it would be the whole top of the bookcase, that old bookcase. Now I don't know what I'm going to do. I might need to rethink that whole wall, and that's traumatic because right now it's 3 bookcases. What am I going to do with those? Anyway, I wish I could vlog. I wish I had. This is one of the rare instances where I wish I had those minimal editing skills so I could put together one video, one 50-minute video showing you what I'm doing with that wall and cut out all the interstitiary stuff, but I can't. So you're just gonna have to take my tedious anecdotes instead. Set against the heroism and heartbreak of World War II, Ruggiero brilliantly, okay, he's not set against the heroism and heartbreak of World War II. He wasn't alive during World War II. Ruggiero brilliantly captures with grace and authenticity the evocative and timeless stories of ordinary people swept up in extraordinary events. Good Lord. So in that one sentence, we have brilliantly captures, with grace and authenticity, the evocative and timeless stories of ordinary people swept up in extraordinary times. So if we were under World War II style rationing, this pub sheet would get no more adjectives or adverbs. I think it's going to use plenty. This novel follows Lieutenant Eddie Harkins, first introduced in Blame the Dead, as he serves as a military investigator in Europe. It's now April 1944, and the entire island of Britain fairly buzzes with the coiled energy of 1 million men poised to leap the channel to France, the first, riskiest step in the Allies' long slog to the heart of Germany and the end of the war. Not technically the first step, but the first big step. Quite a few people were sent in ahead of time to soften up the ground and do reconnaissance. But that's okay. Harkins is tasked to investigate the murder of Helen Batchelor, an OSS analyst. Harkins is assigned a British driver, Private Pamela Lowell, to aid in his investigation. Lowell is a smart, brave, and resourceful. Like Harkins, she is prone to speak her mind even when it doesn't help her. Soon, a suspect is arrested, and Harkins is ordered to stop digging. Suspicious, he continues his investigation, only to find himself trapped in a web of Soviet secrets. As bombs fall, Harkins must solve the murder and reveal the spies before it's too late. The author is uniquely qualified to write such a gripping and realistic tale of World War II and the daily lives of those that fought on the front lines and behind the scenes. You don't need qualifications to write a novel. I could write a novel on this exact same scenario tomorrow. You don't need qualifications to write a novel. I know as much as the author does about this period and all of the variables involved. I could throw in a dead body and a murder investigation that's stalled by the upper echelons. I could write such a book tomorrow if I weren't busy writing other things. But let's hear his qualifications. He is a West Point graduate and a former Army officer who has studied, practiced, and taught leadership for more than 25 years. He is also the author of many nonfiction books about the military and World War II, and in the course of writing them, interviewed over 100 veterans. Fantastic. Okay, well, that is certainly grounding to make sure that this doesn't feel inauthentic. With this book, he uses the first-hand military knowledge and long-time research spun together along with a fascinating what-if mystery, which vividly portrays some of the true experiences of those that serve their country. It's the what-if part that I'm interested about, because this is from Forge. It's from Tor. It's from Nightfire. It's from Tor. I mean, it's from the overarching branch that typically serves up lots of science fiction and fantasy. I don't know. I don't get the feeling there's any element like that in here. So, my main question here is: do I need Blame the Dead? Do I need to read it? And if so, would this publisher maybe cough it up? I'll have to find out. I'll have to poke around, and I don't have much time to do it, so I have to do that right away and see. I know I probably don't need to read that book in order to read this one, obviously, since this is in English with pages, so I could read this today if I wanted. But am I going to be missing a lot if I don't read that first book first? I never know quite what to do in a circumstance like that. Part of me, just from fear of missing out, I want to get on the emails right away and get a copy sent to me. But then another part of me kicks in and says, no. A book shopper, if you're not in quarantine, if you're allowed to go to your bookstore, if your bookstore is open, if people are shipping books to your bookstore, a book shopper seeing this ought not to think, well, I need to buy another book in order to read this book. And it ought not to be true. They ought to be able to pick this book up and read it just as it is and enjoy it as if there'd never been a previous book. that is part of the author's job, unless they're just writing hack sequels. And I didn't read the words hack sequels amidst the barrage of adjectives and adverbs in that pub sheet. So I'm always a little torn. Do I beat the bushes for the previous book or books when I get a book in a series? Or do I read this one and just put the author to the test? Did he do the job or did he not? Do I feel like I'm meeting Eddie Harkins for the first time? Or do I feel like I'm coming in on something that I need to know more about? I'll probably end up contacting the publicist. But then we have the box. And it's not a big box. It's a thin little thing. And then we'll be done. We're not going to go to 40 minutes. And we're not going to have 5 videos of 40 minutes content. Let's see what we have here. Oh, okay. All right, great. I don't have a pub sheet on this one, just an invoice, which I most certainly do not want. I don't have the pub sheet on this, so I don't know the date. I got an email about this from the publicist, and I was, of course, immediately intrigued. This is from Oxford University Press, the stalwart folks at Oxford University Press, and this is by Kristen Swenson, and it's called A Most Peculiar Book, The Inherent Strangeness of the Bible. So naturally I was intrigued. Let's see what we have here. The Bible, we are constantly reminded, is the best-selling book of all time. It is read with intense devotion by hundreds of millions of people, stands as authoritative for Judaism and Christianity, and informs and affects the politics and lives of the religious and non-religious around the world. But how well do we really know it? The Bible is so familiar, so ubiquitous, that we have begun to take our knowledge of it for granted. Begun to. We've been taking our knowledge of it for granted for 1,000 years. The Bible, many of us think we know, is a pale imitation of the real thing. In A Most Peculiar Book, the author addresses the dirty little secret of biblical studies, that the Bible is a weird book. It is full of surprises and contradictions, unexplained impossibilities, intriguing supernatural creatures, and heroes doing horrible deeds. It does not provide a simple worldview. What the Bible says on a given topic is multifaceted, sometimes even contradictory. Yet, Swenson argues we have a tendency to reduce the complexities of the Bible to aphorisms, bumper stickers, and slogans. Christians have that tendency. Most other people don't, but Christians do. Oh, yes, they do, in big numbers. The author helps readers look at the text with fresh eyes, a collection of ancient stories and poetry written by multiple authors, held together by the tenuous string of tradition. The Bible often undermines our modern assumptions, and is all the more marvelous and powerful for doing it. I agree with that last part. Rather than dismiss the Bible as an outlandish or irrelevant relic of antiquity, the author leans into the messiness full throttle, making ample room for discomfort, wonder, and weirdness. Okay. All right, great. Who is the author when she's at home? She's an associate professor of religious studies at Virginia Commonwealth University and a fellow at Virginia Humanities in Charlottesville. And she's the author of a handful of other books, all on religious subjects. So this is not her first rodeo when it comes to writing about the Bible. I wonder how this starts. Let's read just the beginning of this and see if you like it. I think this is probably an early February release. I have a confession to make, but I'm worried that what you, an intelligent and discerning reader, will hear is not exactly what I mean. Then you'll close this book and put it right back on the shelf. Yet what I want to tell you, and in fact that feels like a confession, is what drives this entire project. So here it is. I love the Bible. That statement gives me the willies. It's something millions of Americans would nod right along with because it sounds so simple to understand. But my love for the Bible is not a tacit acceptance of everything in it as lessons or truths for immediate application. Not hardly. This is not a love for facile public display. It's not of the swept off my feet, love at first sight variety, but rather more like the complicated love that might develop after decades in a marriage, an arranged marriage. I grew up with the Bible in an open-minded, garden-variety Protestant congregation. All right, I already like this author. And I've come to love the Bible for all sorts of reasons, including some of the same reasons that can make it problematic and exasperating, even for reasons that make me disagree with it. Look closely. Besides texts of lofty wisdom, inspiration, comfort, and guidance, the Bible contains bewildering archaisms, inconsistencies, questionable ethics, and herky-jerky narrative style. The Old Testament of the Bible contains almost no questionable ethics. Almost all of the ethics that you will discover anywhere in what is traditionally known as the Old Testament are horrific. Iffy means they go back and forth over the line. They don't. Most of them are horrific, genocidal. Anyway, yet those features barely get a passing glance these days. Some believers simply explain them away, while non-believers use them as the reason to dismiss the Bible entirely. This book looks squarely at what's so weird, difficult, and disconcerting about both about and in the Bible, and in the process shows how those qualities can actually enrich one's relationship, religious or not, to the text. And it is possible to have a non-religious relationship with the Bible, right? We were doing all sorts of Bible-related commentary on this channel. I was constantly stressing you have to divorce it from that. You can't come at it as a religious text. You have to just purge that away when you're reading it, or it won't work at all, except as a religious text. And it's disastrous as a religious text. I am not trying to convert anybody to anything except learning. I'm committed to providing information, digging into the text and its background, and sharing questions of my own that might resonate with you. But those questions are both what make me love the Bible and what makes that love so complicated. Okay, all right, well, I'm on board. I was anyway, just with the description of the book. Those of you who have done some Bible studies, who've done some serious Bible studies, not just, isn't God great, that sort of thing that you are called Bible studies and done at a lot of churches across the country every Sunday. If you've studied anything about the Bible, then a lot of this book, especially its opening chapters, will probably be familiar to you. I would imagine that the author is going to go over the provenance of the different books of the Bible, the timing of them, maybe move on to historical inaccuracies and inconsistencies between the books, that sort of thing. And those of you who maybe have studied the Bible a little will already know a lot of that. But even so, you're seeing just from that bit of the introduction that you're going to like spending time in the author's company, even if she's going over stuff you already know, which is a large part of what I look for in a book like this. Whether it's, how odd and peculiar the Bible is, or the highlights of Roman history, or whatever. If it's a subject that I know well, my main question is going to be, am I going to enjoy being in your company for 250 pages? And I think I already get the impression that I am. So there you go. The Strangeness of the Bible, a most peculiar book. No idea when it comes out, but it's got to be soon because it's a finished copy. In fact, since it's from Oxford, one thing I've noticed about them is that they tend to be late. So this might be out already. This might, or rather, today is Wednesday. This might have come out yesterday. The technical release date might have been yesterday, or next Tuesday. But one way or another, it's got to be soon, and I'm all for it. Absolutely all for it. I will read this today. So we have a most peculiar book. We have Comes the War, a second book featuring this investigator protagonist during World War II, and Folklorn by Angela Hur, H-U-R, which doesn't come out until the end of April. A novel that doesn't come out until the end of April. So there you go. That is the mail. An awkward look at the bean. The angle's not right, or she would be sauntering on as her normal self. But I'll figure it out. Because if I don't stick with this angle, I'll try something else. But in the meantime, you'll notice this video is under 25 minutes. Now, a lot of YouTubers that I know, including 4 who do this professionally, will often just look at their watch at 5 minutes because all they want is to get this thing to 8 or 11 minutes so they can monetize it. That's all they want. And for them, 25 minutes is an ordeal. It's an extra long, incredibly long video to make. With me and a couple of other booktubers of notorious loquaciousness, it is basically a throat clearing. But nevertheless, we did it. 25 minutes of Steve is all you're getting today, instead of 3 hours like yesterday. So that was the mail. We got 3 books in the mail, and one of them, A Most Peculiar Book, seems really intriguing to me. Of course, it's the only nonfiction, so it would. But I'm going to wrap this up here, and I will see you tomorrow. Not 5 more times today, but tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.